Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's happening, everybody? I hope everybody's doing good today. I know that I'm doing great. So how's it going, man? I hope everybody's doing all right. Well, check it out. Today, we're going to continue on the reading of The Cosmic Power Within You, this book right here. All righty. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to go along in the book, and I'm going to take you along on that story. And today we're going to read chapter 4. And I know yesterday I didn't come up and do a reading yesterday because I was so tired, man. I since it was the holiday this past week, we had the Memorial Day holiday, and at the school that I'm currently attending, we had to do an extra hour. So I go to school at night. So from 6 to 10, it was from 6 to 11 p.m. And man, I was just so tired. It just I just refrained from doing the video yesterday. My apologies, but I'm refreshed and back in. So today we're going to continue on the reading, and but before we get started, man, if you would please join me in a moment of silence, followed by a serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers, and for those of us who are still in the struggle that keeps us bound down. So if you would please, a moment of silence. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, man. Well, let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set my mic up over here so that I can hold on to this book. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these on, and we're going to get started. Okay, so here we go. Chapter 4. Oh, let me take these other glasses off. I just can't see without these. Okay, here we go. Chapter 4. And it goes like this. It's titled, How the Cosmic Power Can Solve Problems. It says 90% of problems are humanly created. Change your thoughts and keep them changed, and you can transform your whole life. Mr. Fred Rinchke, an engineer, said to me recently that 90% of the problems of the men in the plant were due to their personality defects and to their inability to get along with others. Then he added that only about 10% of the problems were of technical nature. It goes on to say the right way to solve problems. And it says, there is a right way to talk, to walk, to drive a car, to bake a cake. Actually, there is a right and wrong way to do everything. To live a full and happy life, you must live according to certain immediate and eternal principles. You would not think of building a wheel of center of a violating the principles of electricity or chemistry. Likewise, when you think, speak, act, and react from the standpoint of infinite intelligence within you, you will find that your whole life will be one of joy, happiness, success, and peace of mind. It says, how changed thinking healed ulcers and high blood pressure. It's a story that goes by Miss Wrongway. It says, Miss Wrongway was jealous and hateful toward the supervisor in her office. She had developed ulcers and high blood pressure. However, she became interested in the spiritual principles of forgiveness and goodwill. She realized that she had accumulated many resentful and grudging attitudes, and that these negative and obnoxious thoughts were festering in her subconscious mind. She tried to talk with her supervisor in an effort to straighten matters out, but the woman brushed her off. In a continuing effort to correct the situation, Miss Wrongway applied the principles of harmony and goodwill for 10 minutes every morning prior to going to work. She affirmed as follows, I surround Miss X with harmony, love, peace, joy, and goodwill. There are harmony, peace, and understanding between us, and whenever I think of Mrs. X, I will say God's love, saturates your mind. A few weeks passed, and Miss Wrongway went to San Francisco for the weekend. On boarding the plane, she discovered that the only vacant seat was the one next to her supervisor. She greeted her cordially and received a cordial and loving response. They had a harmonious and joyous time together in San Francisco. They are now attending my lectures together. Infinite intelligence set the stage for the solution of this difficulty. Mrs. Wrongway changed thinking had changed everything, including a perfect healing of her ulcers and high blood pressure. Next story goes on to say how the cosmic power affected a promotion. I recall a lady once telling me in my study, everybody in my office dislikes me. There are several who even want me fired. I said to her, why don't you resign and find another position? What's the use, she said. I had 6 jobs this year so far. This young lady had a brilliant mind and was well educated and was an outstanding legal secretary. 90% of her problem was in her personality. I gave her a spiritual prescription and suggested that she take it regularly, at least morning and night, for several months. I told her to pray the following prayer for every man and woman in her office every day before she went to work. The prayer goes like this. It says, I send a loving thought and feeling of goodwill, happiness, and joy to all those in my office. I affirm, claim, and believe that my relationship with each one of my coworkers will be harmonious, pleasant, and satisfactory. Divine love, harmony, peace, and beauty flow through my thoughts, words, and deeds, and I am constantly releasing the imprisoned splendor within me. I am happy, joyous, and free, bubbling over with enthusiasm, and I rejoice in the goodness of God in the land of the living and in the infinite godness of all people. At the end of 2 months, she received a wonderful promotion and was put in complete charge of the entire legal office. Wow. There's another story that goes on to say, titled, How a Mother's Mental Movie Worked Wonders. And it goes on to say, a mother in Beverly Hills was worried about her son failing in his examination in medical college. At my suggestion, she stopped nagging and worrying about the boy and instead began to paint a mental picture of graduation day when her son would receive his diploma. Several times daily, she visualized the scene clearly, feeling the naturalness and joy of the whole procedure and congratulating her son in her imagination, and made a habit of this by practicing her mental movie for at least 10 minutes 3 times a day whenever she was prone to worry. She flashed on the movie in her mind. She constantly saw the accomplished fact she imagined being present at his graduation, and she saw the fulfillment of her dream. Incidentally, I might add that shortly after her change of mental attitude, her son became intensely interested in his studies and showed remarkable improvement along the times. Her feeling of success and triumph was subjectively communicated with the cosmic power to her son, and he responded accordingly. It's titled, A Healing of Personality for Business Success. A man whom I was interviewing recently said to me, I am all mixed up and tied up. I can't get along with others. I'm constantly rubbing them the wrong way. The young man was hypertensive, jittery, self-centered, and crotchety. In spite of all this, he wanted to have good relations with his coworkers and to get along well with them in every respect. I explained to him that his present personality represented the sum total of his habitual thinking, early training, indoctrination, and emotional atmosphere, plus the sum total of beliefs inculcated upon his mind, but that he could transform himself. I explained to him that God indwells in him, that all the attributes, potencies, qualities, and aspects of God were lodged in his deeper mind and could be resurrected and expressed in his personal life. I'm going to read that one more time. He said, I explained to him that God indwells him, that all the attributes, potencies, qualities, and aspects of God were lodged in his deeper mind, and he could be resurrected and expressed in his personal life. Accordingly, I gave him the following specific prayer for the purpose of transforming his entire personality and making him radiant, happy, joyous, and fabulously successful. He affirmed feeling and loving several times daily as follows. It went like this. God is the great personality, the one life being expressed through me. God is, and his presence flows through me now as harmony, joy, peace, love, beauty, and power, and I am a channel for the divine. His wholeness, beauty, and perfection, and constantly being expressed through me. Today I am reborn spiritually. I completely detach myself from the old way of thinking, and I bring divine love, light, and truth definitely into my experience. I can consciously feel love for everyone I meet. Mentally, I say to everyone I contact, I see the God in you, and I know you see the God in me. I recognize the qualities of God in everyone. I practice this morning, noon, and night. It is a living part of me. I am reborn spiritually now because all day long I practice the presence of God no matter what I am doing. Whether I am walking along the street, shopping, or going about my daily business, wherever my thought wanders away from God or the good, I bring it back to the complementation of his holy presence. I feel noble, dignified, and godlike. I walk in a high mood, sensing my oneness with God. His peace fills my soul. As this man made a habit of allowing attributes and qualities of cosmic good flow through his mind, his whole personality underwent a marvelous change. He became affable, amiable, unvain, and increased in understanding, and now communicates vibrancy and goodwill whether he goes. In addition, he has moved up several rungs on the ladder of success in his field of work. Another story goes on to say how you can develop marvelous personality. Emerson said that religion includes the personality of God. All the elements of personality are within God, such as love, peace, joy, beauty, laughter, happiness, power, harmony, rhythm, order, serenity, and proportion. God is also law, and we express our divine personality as we begin to operate the law and claim, feel, and know that these qualities and attributes are flowing through us. Then we become more godlike every day. The word person comes from the Latin persona, which means a mask worn, or mask originally worn by Greek actors. In ancient times, the Greek actor put on the mask and assumed the role of a person depicted by the mask. He dramatized through the mask and characteristics and qualities of the personality it suggested. Another story goes on to say how a secretary practiced empathy and established harmony and understanding. The dictionary defines empathy as imaginative projection of one's own conscience into another being. It might be called sympathetic understanding. Mrs. Jean Wright, secretary of our organization, told me how she practiced the art of relaxation to another girl in the office where she formerly worked. The girl was very hostile antagonistic and quite obstreperous. A great misunderstanding seemed to be growing between them. As a result, Mrs. Wright sat still a few times a day and projected herself into the mind of another woman and looked out at herself through other eyes. She then corrected what she saw and claimed God's peace, harmony, and understanding reign supreme between us. Whenever I think of Mrs. S., I claim she is loving, kind, cooperative, and harmonious. About a week, the girl invited Mrs. Wright at her home for dinner. During the visit, they were pleasantly surprised to discover that they had many interests in common. Eventually, these two women became fast friends as well as good associates in their work. Another story goes on to say how a silence between sisters was broken. Recently, while I was speaking in San Francisco under the auspices of the Institute of Religious Science, an old friend had breakfast with me at my hotel. She told me that her only sister would no longer speak to her. When she phoned her sister, the latter would hang up the phone with a curt phrase, "I'm busy, don't bother me." My friend found it very difficult to understand her sister's attitude, which on the surface seemed so unreasonable and stupid. I spoke to her, pointing out that if her sister had tuberculosis or cancer, she would not be angry with her. My friend answered, "Of course not. I would be most compassionate." Goes on to say, then I added, "Your sister has what we might call tuberculosis of the mind." It says, "And you must realize that many people have twisted, morbid, and distorted mentalities and are often referred to as mental hunchbacks." Suddenly, she realized that she was not responsible for the mental state of her sister, nor that she might be responsible for someone who was an alcoholic or a schizophrenic or a psychotic or a paranoid. She said, "Oh, I see now. I am not responsible for her mental sickness and hostility toward me. And all I owe her, as Paul said, is love. I do love her and wish for her all the blessings of life." She prayed as follows, "I completely surrender my sister to God. I radiate love, peace, and goodwill to her, and there are harmony, peace, and divine understanding between us. I lose her and let her go." After a few days, her sister called and apologized for her rudeness and hostility. She freely admitted that the breakup of her engagement had caused her to project her resentment and hostility not only to her sister but also to many others. I might add that my friend was spiritually and emotionally mature when she was overly concerned with the deformed and wrapped mentality of her sister. Her understanding will keep from anger, criticism, and hatred, or from seeking relationship against a warped minds of others. Remember, when you would not hate a person because of a physical deformity, such as an endured by the hunchback, rather you would be grateful that you were spared from such misfortune. The person with a distorted personality is very unhappy within himself and is a seething cauldron of inner turmoil. Quite frequently, he lashes out to those who have been most kind and generous to him, because their inner serenity, tranquility, and poise reveal his own disturbed emotional state. Since he can't reach their quietude and unconsciously tries to drag them down to his own emotional debauch, misery loves company. Another story goes on to say his application of the golden rule resulted in a wonderful promotion. I talked some months ago with a man who had earned a PhD and had believed that his diploma would guarantee him success, prestige, and recognition. But he eventually developed that there were men in his organization who had no degree at all and who earned far more money than he did, and exercised greater responsibility. I explained to this young man that there are many distinguished PhDs, linguistics professors, doctors, and similar brilliant and capable men from all walks of life who now inhabit Skid Row, attributed to their trouble to alcohol or women, but the real reason is self-depreciation and self-condemnation, self-loathing, and lack of all contact with the treasure and wisdom of their cosmic powers, which could set them on a high road to happiness, freedom, and peace of mind. They are down on themselves and they lack self-acceptance and true expression. Their habitual thinking attracts to them misery, suffering, and poverty. Yet these men, who are often highly educated, have at one time risen to higher echelons in their respective fields. Their alcoholism, dope addiction, and abnormal behavior are but symptoms of their twisted and wrapped personalities. A man of wisdom I am speaking, the man of whom I am speaking was highly critical and jealous of his associates. He spoke of them with a touch of asperity in his voice. He troubled with his failure to practice the golden rule. At my suggestion, he began to treat others as he would wish others to treat him. He began to practice smiling and being kind, graceful, and pleasant, and all his associates, he persisted in this attitude until it became habitual, and today he is one of the most affable, amiable, and loving personalities you could meet. His success is assured, and he has received a wonderful promotion and the dramatic truth. Change your thought pattern, and you change your life. Okay. The next story goes like this. You are needed regardless of your age. It says, Emerson said, the great oversoul has need of an organ where I am, else I would not be here. Sometimes I meet people who say, oh, my children are all grown up. They don't want me or visit me anymore. Remember, God and his cosmic world have need for you. There is no such thing as an unneeded or an unwanted person. Each person is a note in the grand symphony of all creation. There is a special and particular role for you to play. The Bible says, the voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Isaiah 40-3. The desert of confusion, lack, and limitation is your own mind. And you can now listen to the inner voice which speaks to you in the form of your heart desire and which is telling you to arise and to elevate yourself higher because God has need for you. Say to yourself, God gave me this desire and he reveals to me the perfect plan for his fulfillment in divine order. As you adhere to this truth, the way will open up and your desert will rejoice and blossom as the rose. Next story goes on to say, saying yes in life is cosmic truth. The Bible says, let your communication be yea, yea, or nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Matthew 5:3-7. Say yes to all the ideas which heal, bless, inspire, elevate, and strengthen your life. Come to a clear-cut decision that you will accept only the eternal verities and spiritual values of life and the Purposeful build these into your personality. Rejoice in your sense of oneness with the infinite intelligence of infinite mind and contemplate the wonders of your divine sonship. Say no boldly to all teaching, ideas, thoughts, creeds, and dogmas which inhibit, restrict, and instill fear into your mind. In other words, accept nothing mentally that does not fill your soul with joy. Realize that God in life and that He is your life now. God is love and His love fills your soul. God is joy and you are expressing the fullness of joy. God is wisdom and your intellect is anointed constantly with the light from on high. God is peace and you are expressing more and more His peace in your thoughts, words, and deeds. As you make a daily habit of realizing these truths, you will develop a radiant personality and make a highway for your good in all ways and things. Goes on to say, the last story titled, How You Can Triumph Over Depression and All Obstacles. It says, the Bible says, every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall made straight, and the rough places plain. Isaiah 40-4. When you are in the valley of despair, dejection, and melancholia, turn to the God presence within you and realize that external things and conditions are not causative. All things pass away. Conditions do not create other conditions. It says the primary cause of your thought and feelings, i.e., your mental attitude, the way you believe. The conditions and circumstances are suggestive only. You have the power to reject or to accept them. Decide, therefore, that infinite intelligence reveals the way out. Contemplate in your cosmic thought that the way you want things to be, and the mountain problem will be removed, and the hill, obstacle, or difficulty will be shattered. As you claim the divine law and order govern your life, the crooked, the ups and downs of the life, the swings of fortune shall be made straight and the rough places plain, i.e., you will begin to live a balanced life of growth, achievement, and advancement, free from detours into sickness, accidents, losses, and foolish expenditures of energy, time, and effort. As you keep your eyes on the cosmic power, as you tune in on the universal wisdom within you and make contact through your thought and feeling, all the barriers, delays, impediments, and difficulties will disappear, and the desert of your life will truly rejoice and blossom as a rose. Alrighty, well, there you go. Chapter 4 of the cosmic power within you. Man, that was good stories. Dude, I guess to kind of reiterate on some of that stuff, what I gathered from some of that stuff is that a lot of the stories were talking about your mental thought process. You know what I mean? If you stay in that negative, like those people who were wishing bad upon somebody that they were working with, or they just, were dreading the fact that somebody couldn't do something that they wanted them to do. You know what I mean? If it goes back to, to me, the serenity prayer, you know what I mean, that we start these videos off with. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. And in a lot of those stories, sometimes you have to accept that you can't change some things in life. You know what I mean? And you have to accept that some things come and some things go. There's always going to be a beginning and an end, life, death, coming and going, darkness and light. I mean, we live in a world of patterns like that, and that it's just inevitable. That's the world that we live in. But the thing is, like a lot of those stories, is that when you start allowing yourself to come into contact with that cosmic power of the divinity of Mother Earth, and of the things that you have no control over, and let them just be ruled by the universe and the divinity, then all you have to do is worry about the things that you have control over. You know what I mean? And you have control over what enters your subconscious mind. You have total control of that, because when something enters your mind, then in turn there you get an action. When you get a feeling, whenever you have a feeling of something, that means that you let some external thought, some external thing, environment, whatever it may be, person, thing, you allowed that to enter your subconscious mind, and turn there you got a feeling. That's how it works. And you have the gift to you have the gift of free will to pick and choose the things that you allow into your mind. You know what I mean? That's your domain. You have total control of that. That you can, whatever it is, you have control of that. And if you're having a hard time doing it, like a lot of those stories said, is that they started doing things like chanting prayers and chanting good cosmic, energies, that they were wishing well upon people. And when they were chanting those things, the universe in turn there allowed them to have that type of attraction back to them. And it's basically the law of attraction. You know what I mean? If all you're projecting out into the universe, if the only things coming out of your mind and out of your mouth are negative things, and you're wishing bad upon people, and you're just dogging yourself, and I can't stand these people, I don't like working with them, or I'll never be able to do this, I'll never be able to do that. Well, then guess what? That is the kind of stuff that you're projecting out into the universe, and that's the kind of stuff that you're going to get back. You know what I mean? It took me a long time, man. I relapsed for 5 years, and I can remember I'm not a stupid guy. You know what I mean? I have 2 degrees. But I allowed the negativity, my environment, that's the kind of stuff that I was bringing into my subconscious mind, and those are the kind of things I was projecting out into the universe. And in turn that was the actions that I had. That I stayed bound down to the addiction. I stayed bound down to that negativity. That's all I surrounded myself with, was with the negativity of living in a world of addiction and street life. You know what I mean? And until I changed that and had to reprogram my mental thought process in just letting out spirituality, positivity, no matter how bad I felt, that the more you do it, it's going to come. You know what I mean? And it has. And I'm just amazed at the way that works. You know what I mean? And it's not me. It's not me. I got a small part in it. But when I let it out into the universe, guess who's picking it up from there? Your higher power. You know what I mean? Imagine that. All you got to do is speak it, chant it. And your higher power pick that up, and he'll just throw back at you what you're trying to get. You know what I mean? You feel me? It's great. It's great. It's great to be alive, man. I don't know. It just makes me feel happy. You know what I mean? That's why I do the videos, so that I can share messages like this and share things that I'm doing, and reading books is one of the new things that's part of my, what I call my recovery arsenal. And I just figured I'd share a little bit of that with you guys. So, today was chapter 4, man. It was great. So, tomorrow we'll do chapter 5, see what kind of message we get out of that. You know what I mean? But I guess that's going to be it for today's video, man. If you would please give me a thumbs up. You know, hit that subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. You know what I mean? Please share my channel. It's the only way that we can grow the channel and spread the message. And that's, you know, the whole purpose of doing this is to help, you know, the addict who still suffers, and those of you who are still in the struggle, and just to help anybody and everybody, you know what I mean, to bring them to a world of spirituality, positivity, and recovery, man. And it's just great. So again, please, thank you for tuning in and for staying for the reading of chapter 4 of the book, The Cosmic Power Within You. Great stuff. Tomorrow we'll continue. So I guess until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.